But Effa, so if you go down right the logic train, so what? Okay, w- okay. Here's the thing, right? You didn't even answer. Do you want to make the alcohol yourself, or are you just providing a little wood thing caskets? Are you gonna, as in, are you going to work in conjunction with an African brewery company, or is it gonna be your own brewery? Can you hear us, or is it my internet? I don't know.
think he's
Yeah, something's going on in this side. Okay. Eternal Sword King said, "Make your brand expensive. Be like, yeah, yeah, that could work actually. If you make it expensive and exclusive, people will buy it, right? Now the issue is,
Yeah.
will they actually buy it enough to pay off the investments and all that? So there's always that extra stuff. But yeah, 100%. Make it expensive and exclusive, people will buy it. Kenyans are the one of the most. They're not like Nigerians who just like to spend. They really do believe in, like, I don't know, being better than other people. So it's a little bit of a different spirit over here.
I mean, I feel like if if this drink can be, branded correctly, it tastes good or whatever it is. Maybe it tastes bad, who knows. But if it can be exported, you know, to other markets, then I think eventually you could get the domestic market going. Especially since you say that um, Kenyans kind of more so, look to outside brands, so I feel like
Yeah, so I'll give you
making
an
sure you
example.
can go
Yeah,
ahead.
flexed up. I agree 100%. So Kenya, for example, can make extremely cheap, and alcohol here is heavily taxed, right? But they can make extremely cheap. Like the cheapest is $7 per 750 ml for spirit here. That's crazy cheap. Actually, you can get it as cheap as $5 per 750 ml if you use a Tanzanian alcohol. If you export that shit to Britain, even with a 40% tax, that still will be cheaper than majority of the products on the shelf, and they will drink it because they just want to get drunk, right? You can market it to the UK and America, cheap drinks to get drunk off. That will at least pay the bills until you kind of break into the Kenyan market. So as long as you have, all the whatever you have some access to an international market with something like this, you can do the arbitrage and leverage the difference in prices, different markets quite well.
Definitely. I feel like I don't even know if he's hearing this.
He's probably sucking off Dwight Man to get his check on time. That's what he loves. So I'm not even coming from. I'm just saying. Um, but again, I generally don't. I'm more of a proponent of proving your work, doing stuff that has a very low cost, um, starting off, unless you already have experience somewhere else, so that you can obviously have transferable skills.
so.
But
How
if
did
it's
you
your
get
first,
to that position? Because let me.
okay,
I think it might be useful for the audience to the degree to which you can kind of collate and
mhm.
describe the changes. Because I would say that perhaps you were maybe more neutral at some point. I've always been the keep things high skill and high margin MFer. Why would you want to do what other people do?
Right,
Find a niche within a niche within a niche because that's where the money is.
yeah, of course,
Yeah. And so on, and if possible, the service aspect because that's where you tend to have a lot of ability on pricing control. And then once you have capital, then yes, then we can start
yeah,
talking about how capital gets deployed, moved, and blah blah blah. So, but how did you change over time from more of a maybe more I can try these products, I could try this different kinds of consulting, I could I could just do all these random things. Go ahead.
yeah. Because okay, good point. Right. At the end of the day, you are limited by energy and human resource. If you go around trying loads of stuff, it can work, but you're spreading yourself thin. You already have other responsibilities because we're assuming certain things. He's 35, he's a 4-year-old man. He's got other responsibilities in his life. You can't just go around trying everything. Now it might work for you, but it's not the most energy efficient way. Yeah, as I mentioned, I agree more with what you're saying. Right, leverage the market, find some kind of arbitrage whereby there's a difference in either price, skill, or something is just missing. And even if you just look at it as a middleman situation, right? You're not going to make money by being the guy that lays bricks. There's a limit how much you can make, right? a certain amount in a day. But if you're the guy who's making the connection between the construction company as well as the client, you're already eating so much money in there in between, right? So they're leveraging a niche and a market that already exists is obviously the best way to go about it. And of course, I'm trying to integrate the fact that he's a black American. He's got never been on Africa, never been on the ground. He can't just come here and start a crazy big business where he has to be here. Like in your case, like right, you got a wife back home, you got a wife's uncle or some, you got a whole network of people that can actually watch over your business. He has got none of that. So in his case, he's got to even I'm trying to advise on a business that can function without him necessarily having everything that let's say you or I have on the ground.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree, and that was nice there because you brought in scaling too. You're like, okay, if you're going to be doing bricks or whatever, because whatever the skill is that we were also talking about, that you have to start with high quality, high paying skill where you have a certain amount of price control, where you can dial the price down, presumably to get in and lock yourself in, and then you can also lift the price up. And then there's a question of now scaling. Even if you are top whatever consulting, blah blah blah, a doctor or something like that, you're still living. And but to the degree to which there's a direct relationship between your compensation and the time you spend, then you're capped again, right? So you have to then get to the whole kind of what's scalable. And what's scalable, there are many ways to think of scalable without just being silly and just saying the kind of stupid cliche MBA. Oh, it's got to scale, whatever, right? Whatever the fuck that is. But basically, that middleman thing can scale. So, and typically people misunderstand it because they want to immediately see massive results from from being a plug, right? What I'm saying is you're in business, okay? You do a particular kind of service, okay? You are this doctor, okay? But there's this other kind of thing that, is another kind of specialist does. So a customer comes to you and says, "Do you do this?" You have two options. One, you can say no, or you can say yes. You put your little markup on it. You learn whatever it is that some kind of administrative aspect of the job that justifies you getting it. Plus, there's a finder's fee. You're bringing this client, and you hook it up with some other specialist, right? Now you and this specialist over time, if things work out, you can kind of formalize your business relationship, right? Um, that thing whereby okay, the customer is going to pay me $500, I'm going to give $400 to the specialist and literally keep $100. People are like, is it worth it? I'm only keep getting $100 out of this stuff. But if that thing scales where now you're the middleman that connects this whole bunch of whatevers, and it doesn't really take an effort because it's an easy pass through, then that's one aspect of scalability. The other obvious aspects of scalability is when you hire people, right? Hire people and then use their time. That's still also capped, right? Because it's their time. And then you have to also then try to use technology, which is making money while you sleep, using that reputation thing again regarding all these connections that you've made, and you just keep. There is nothing that infinitely scales, right? Everything is capped. That's why you have to do all of them at once.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. If are you still alive or is
Oh yeah, I'm
Dwight
still
Man
here.
still? Okay, I thought. Okay, so now, so once you're sucking off Dwight Man, I agree with everything I just said there. I'll suggest this, right? Come to Kenya. I can host you over here for a couple of days, and now I actually have a house. I'm not living in a whatever it is a tray anymore. Come to Kenya, stay here for like a month, right? Look at how people do business, the culture, the context, all of that. Then find and explore the different business opportunities. I suggest doing something simple just to see how business environment is. Something where you're not going to lose money. I'm not telling you to become a farmer, right? But set up a small chicken thing, right? Just know the logistics. Okay, I had like 1,000 chickens. I invested, I don't know, £500 to start it off at $500. This is the result of it. This is the kind of people I can work with. The logistics. Just come set up something that can't fail, or if you fail,
Hey, actually,
it's not
which
gonna.
one's better, pork or chicken?
Right now, pork is doing really good. Right, pork is a new Kenyan bourgeoisie thing, right? Because before no one ate pork, right? Because of all the Muslims. Right now, pork is now like a big thing. So actually, pork would do well.
Because I can find
Yeah.
me a Chinaman, and I'll sell because Africans like how Asians make pork.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Look, pork is doing good right now, right? A lot of new age Kenyans like pork, so you're not gonna go wrong with pork either. That's
Right.
actually a yeah, that's a good it's a good business opportunity, to be honest.
Yeah, I got some
100%.
experience. I can butcher me a hog.
But I don't eat pork. It's against my religion, so I won't eat your pork.
Well, I'll bring
I
over
won't eat.
some nice ribs for you. You'll love them. I ain't gonna tell Muhammad.
Man, you're so racist, man. Mohammed is a good guy, man. One of my favorite pedos.
Oh, oh. I ain't
No,
say it. You said it.
just joking.
So when they
I'm just joking.
come cut your fucking head off, don't you look at me and say, "Oh, AFR." Oh.
Kenya is not Nigeria. If Muslims start doing that shit, they all get deported, man. Trust me.
Cool. I wasn't really too worried because people are just respectful. They're just like, go eat your pork over there. Don't bring me no pork rinds, and we straight.
No, no, Kenyans, right? Here's the thing, right? Whether Muslim or not, just don't tell the Kenyan it's pork. They'll eat it. In fact, a Muslim would tell you, just don't tell me what it is. It's not one
Oh
of those
my
situations.
god,
They just don't want to know.
really? I wouldn't do that.
Right? Kenyan, trust me. Just if you don't tell them, they'll eat it nicely and they'll be happy. Kenyans and food and alcohol, that's all they like. Food
I
and
mean, that's
alcohol.
what everybody likes.
No, no, but Kenyans are a special breed when it comes to that. Alcohol and food.
I don't know. I don't think they can out party a Puerto Rican because they like to eat a lot of pork and party.
Sure. Yeah, what's good, Juju? Long time. I haven't seen you for a while. Did you find your Nigerian husband yet, or are you still looking?
Hey Juju, we still have a chance, right? Yeah. I love you, Juju. I'm gonna go harass her on Telegram later.
You're gonna harass her?
Huh? What?
You shouldn't be harassing women. It's wrong.
Oh, I was joking. I was being tongue in cheek. Of course, I don't harass because
You're gonna harass
I'm
her cheek with your tongue? What? What?
my God, no, I'm leaving right now. I will talk to you gentlemen
What
later.
you're gonna lick harass? Okay.
Oh my God, no, I do not endorse that. Don't say that. That is not nice. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Uh oh. He ran away. When the conversation got tough, he ran away. Yeah, flexed up. What about you? What kind of Fulani business are you doing? You can go around acting other tribes against your husband. You can be like you guys can form like a cartel, right? Like the Italians did in America.
Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh yeah. You said start a cartel.
Yeah, protect dusty Igbo's farms from the Fulani herdsmen.
But yeah, man, nah, we're trying to buy a official tribe status in Kenya. That's what we're trying to do. Trying to be on the East Coast and the West Coast.
Yeah, right now people are trying to get tribal status. So you got the Nubians are trying to get it. Actually, they're a very marginalized community. They don't even have an ID status. So they're trying to get it. The Rundis, basically Tutsis, they're trying to get it. They're not going to get it. And then the Fulanis, there's a few Fulanis here, but they haven't really lobbied anything. The main ones are the Nubians and the Tutsis.
There's a few
And then,
there for real.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's right next to South Sudan. There's actually a Fulani scammed me,
Oh yeah, that makes sense. You said what?
A Fulani scammed me once. So,
For real? What?
yeah,
Wow.
he
In
refused to give
Kenya.
back. Yep. But yeah, flex up. What kind of business would you do in Africa?
I'm working on one right now. I don't want to say too much about it. It's a pretty niche industry, but it's more of a high risk thing. I'm going big or go home.
When you say risk in what ways? Money, startup cost, or risk in like it might not work, sort of risk.
Um, Maybe startup costs. I would say startup costs for the most part.
What
Yeah.
about like the materials investment? As in, is it because you're paying for service startup cost, or is it materials startup cost? Because material startup cost, you can always sell it, and it still has value. And if it's service, I guess if you build the
Yeah.
infrastructure, someone might buy
Good.
it. But yeah,
No, definitely a great point, and yeah, you're right about that. I would say yeah, materials, tech in particular, but high potential.
okay, okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Is it in Africa or UK or US?
Oh, I'm gonna do it in Senegal. That's where I'm gonna start.
You speak French?
I don't speak French though, not well, but I'm learning.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Kaizo. Comment t'appelles-tu? Uh, Bonsoir, Fulani.
But yeah, but I know a lot of people, so it won't be as difficult. I have people to work with.
Okay,
Yeah.
good luck. That's all I can say. Or rather,
No,
Godspeed.
appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Same with you.
but there's only a few people that are like us. Like I remember Ja, right? Ja is like a little crybaby. He even texted me on Telegram saying, "Oh, Kaiser, people or whatever. What were we talking about earlier, Ike? About the whole, um, whether I don't know if you're an individual, you can lose your culture and lose yourself or something by assimilating. As long as you don't have a weak Ja mentality, you're gonna do well. Because people like Ja, right? They're weak. They basically think. Apparently, he was like Kaiser. Uh, you know, most people lose themselves. Losing oneself through assimilation is fast. You don't have a defeatist mentality like that, right? You don't believe, your culture is just
Nah,
gonna.
I think that I'm not speaking about him in particular, but I know the phenomenon that you're referring to. And I just feel like there's a little bit of like, yes, we understand, things happen to Africans in Africa, and we have a lot of dustiness going on. But at the end of the day, it's like I think that a lot of people are packing it on. It's like people want to be even more victimized than
Mhm.
you actually are. And I've heard Africans, a lot of people on these panels in particular, just kind of like fall into, like I said, the narrativism that exists, and they'll even create facts like, oh, such and such happened, so we're even worse off than we actually are. And I'm like, it feels like people are out of touch with reality to some degree. They just got to center themselves first.
I see. I see. Okay, fair enough. Right. Look, at the end of the day, I think I don't know if Ike wants to chime in there, but all I can say is if you got a business plan and it's not a stupid one, go out and do something. Right. Start off somewhere in the flow chain, as long as it's some kind of return or potential return, and that's it. Don't overthink things. Start doing some crazy weird math in your head about I don't know all the stuff that could happen. No, just be aware of the general shit and then just go there and start doing stuff. And I think that's it,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, I agree with that. Just try shit, because as long as you're trying shit, you will learn. That
Yeah,
you'll learn from whatever, the successes, the failures, you know, the typical cliches that businessmen, you know,
yeah.
pretty
And
much
generally,
spout.
I don't really believe in failures, anyways, right? Because look, unless you're just retarded, people don't fail. What happens is people don't get back the interest or they don't get back the returns on a time scale that they value. That's
Yeah,
really what happens. There's no real failing, right? It's is this really worth me investing more time in or not, right? Should I go find something else that will give me returns in the timeline that I'm looking for.
Exactly. No, but I think we need to do a lot more, you know, just longer term businesses as well. Of course, there's a lot of, just low hanging fruits that, need to be, picked pretty much in Africa. But I think there we need to have, just a lot of, just a lot of individuals, just a lot of people or a lot of groups that are, really trying to, think long term for us and thinking about, think about the future, and do things that are related, to, just like you said, longer time scale, businesses or industries.
Yeah, yeah, I generally agree. Um, Rebo says Ike always got a suit on. Lol. Yeah, I mean, do you want him to be dressing like some stupid shirts and stuff? Every boy, he's a real man. He's out there. he's, he's not wearing pajamas and shit out there drinking coffee while smoking weed and laughing at us. He's CEO of Dusty LLC. Uh oh.
I am smoking weed though.
Uh oh. I knew it, man. Yeah, blacks and drugs.
Just not with quite the same picture. He got the suit on with the, cigar, the cigar wrap around
Yeah, yeah,
the.
yeah. You gotta have the smoking jacket by the fireplace.
Uh oh. Uh oh. Yeah, but it is what it is. Yeah, but AFI, look, step number one, stop going to Thailand.
Oh, hold
Come
on a
together.
second. Let me just interject something. Sorry for the noise if it came through. Um, there's a particular American brand of the entrepreneur question that I encountered, and I just wanted to point it out. And that is the people whom actually want to do business, right? But then they don't have the attitude for business. You see, it's almost like that means it means that business has been marketed to them, right? Entrepreneurship, as we know, is a market. Ever since self-help came out, with those guys, the initial guys that wrote those books about how to win friends and influence people, blah, blah, blah. That is just a subset of a selling of a particular entrepreneurial type of life. So in America, you have this unique group of people whom want to do the entrepreneur stuff, but don't have the actual attitude. In other places where entrepreneurship is not necessarily quote unquote sold, the attitude, temperament, and desire go hand in hand. And you don't have to tell people that obviously you're gonna have to try different things or whatever it may be, right? Or if you're someone like me, you just kind of like, okay, uh, I just kind of know how to build sediment by sediment, like layer by layer, right? And I don't have to be worried all the time about quote unquote business advice. So just to point out that in America, there's a large cohort of people, including people who want to go back to Africa, for example, for business purposes, whom have been sold the business idea. So there seems to be this kind of a mismatch with regards to the attitude of a quote unquote businessman that is missing. And I don't know if they can actually learn it. But anyways,
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. What's good, Andre?
Great point.
Do you do business, Andre? I know you're just a small boy from Sweden, but do you invest? Do you know what money is? Have you finished high school, Andre?
I wish, when you talk
shit.
about business, you got to be a capital owner, and I would like to be one of that. I would like to be a capital owner, one day, yeah. Like I want to have the capital to do stuff instead of being a worker.
Okay, I mean that's the right motivation. Like, right, actually, there's a ENFP looking guy called Sam Sweeb. I don't know if you've seen him all over TikTok. Like he tries to meet people in the street and even offer them money to quit their job so that they can start a business. He's a multi-million, 100 millionaire guy. definitely a feeler, some kind of ENFP.
Yeah, I think I
He
think I've mentioned him before, and I saw a couple of videos or something like that.
yeah, yeah. I guess yeah.
That is
Go ahead.
BS though. That whole thing, and it kind of relates to a question perhaps I ask Andre. Why
Mhm.
don't you want to be a worker bee, Andre?
It's
It's not a
like
trick. Not a trick question.
it's just a comfortable way to live. It's like no one want to be a worker forever. You want to get out of that class. You want to have some capital. You want to capital get if you have that capital, you can invest in stuff. Basically, you can make businesses yours. You can how you see Disney has a lot of companies that challenge it, but they have a lot of capital. They buy them out and they make them part of the roster. They bought like so many things. They bought Star Wars, great franchise, but that's what is the capital about. It's actually everybody everybody. It's like you don't want to be. It's like the highest class in the society when you're a capital owner. You're not a worker. You're like something important for the economy.
Okay. So, and I don't know if anybody wants to chime in here, flex stuff up, but what I heard was a capital, right? Which there are many ways of getting the capital. Um, Someone like one of the Steves that took over for Mr. Bill Gates at Microsoft, Steve Ballmer, right? He's not an entrepreneur, but he's a multi-millionaire. He bought a team. He had capital, right, to deploy so much capital that when you start buying baseball teams, that's like the biggest flex, right? So, anyways, he
Yeah,
was an employee, but he got the capital. So that's one thing you mentioned. The other thing is this kind of the status aspect of things, um, uh, and perhaps not wanting to be under somebody else, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Basically,
okay,
yeah.
so one of the things to mention, not to throw a damper on things, but it's like, yeah, 100% go for it because it is where you have the most optionality. In other words, the most ability to leverage and move capital and be in control of certain kinds of things, right? Um, and not everybody is going to be a Steve Ballmer, right? But that Steve Ballmer path does exist, where you can be the number two, number three, or number four, whatever, of somebody or some way doing something. That's um, but the working for somebody aspect, that is unavoidable. You're always working for somebody, right? You're always working for somebody. Um, in the sense that that is your customer, right? When you get into business, all of a sudden you realize that you have a new boss. Your new boss is your customer, right? And they can fire you just like your regular boss. They can make your life hard, such blah blah blah. They have so they have some kind of pull over you. So there's always work, hard work, right? More hard work than these silly workers who complain, right? And there's always a boss, whether it's your customers or you get the Elon Musk status, and now it's the stock market and the FEC or whatever, all these other people. Um, just wanted to add those aspects there. Definitely good for the entrepreneur stuff, but you're never going to get out of working super hard or having a boss.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's always going to be, even if, like you said, boss, right? That just means someone to answer to that is outside of yourself. That's just the
Yeah,
world that we live in.
Yeah, what I
You know?
think as well is like Kaiser can know the best investment in Kenya, but he doesn't have the $1 billion to spend on it. That's like when you have capital, you can make great things happen. You can
yeah, but
actually
how are you going to
get.
get the money? I guess that's what people are asking. Yeah, you're right. Okay, if you got the capital, you hire the right people to manage your businesses. You buy the business or whatever. You hire people to create it for you. I get what you're trying to say. You're saying you want to have enough money so you can just buy businesses or pay people to create it, and then you sit back and get the dividends. But how do you make that initial investment money that you're talking about? That is hard work.
You have to actually hard work. You have to believe in it. The stuff you're buying it. Like, for example, if you're gonna buy a company, you know that you can probably make it 10 times as profitable. I think that you need that mindset. That you can make stuff happen with the stuff that you're buying.
I mean,
Yep,
there's
my
different routes, right? Like, for example, the C-suite executive, right? He can be really good at what he does for 30 years, climb the ladder for 30 years. And then now he has so many options. People are pretty much falling over themselves trying to hire him, or people are trying to, make him a partner on their projects or their businesses. So, it's a little bit more complicated than a either or.
yep, exactly. But Andre, yeah, I get your
You
point
got to
about
be
believing in
excellent.
yourself.
And that's what the one thing that's the North Star. And I think obviously it's not as emphasized these days. With the trophy and all the other bullshit that I could say regarding the softening of America of the West, generally speaking. But it's a simple North Star, and it's excellence. It's not doesn't have to be divided into white excellence, blue excellence, immigrant excellence, blah blah blah. We all know what excellence is, right?
Yeah,
We all
yeah.
know what it is to be a badass, and you just got to be a badass. Otherwise, life is not really worth it, right?
I mean, for example, like even just having you know, a pretty good attention span, you can be excellent. That's what I believe. Like I think you're beating out a majority of society just by having a level of focus or a level of discipline, no matter what you do.
It's like getting motivated, like if you want to move up in a class in society, it kind of motivates you sometimes, to actually work harder, do something and make something happen.
Yeah, but Andre, I know you're a feeler, right? But this whole idea of motivation, if you're relying on stuff like motivation, you already failed the game from the beginning. You just got to do shit.
So here's the thing about and I was about to say when Flexed Up said attention span, and I was like, wow, why you gotta come for Andre? That's his weakest point. Is ADHD kid.
Damn,
But
I wasn't even trying to do
I
that.
knew you
I
were.
didn't
I knew
know.
you were trying. But so, and I think that Andre, in looking at attention, he's looking at focus, and he's looking at focus and translating it into motivation. In other words, the ability to, if I just say, he's see appreciation of NI, basically, Kaiser, right, is what he's saying, right? Appreciation of that mental faculty that allows you to keep a long, focused view on things. And then he's saying, oh, that motivates your motivation, right? So he hasn't gone all the way to feeler land. You're talking about he needs to be motivated, like some city, Dusty Broad, that goes to 17 conferences and is part of 7 multi-level marketing pyramids, right? Not, I don't think that's what he's doing yet. But
No, but I mean like
yeah, go ahead.
motivation, like as a narcissist, narcissist view on business.
Oh yeah,
That
I, that is the thing about it is that is part of that focus too. Here's the thing: these people who want to be something, but they don't have the actual stick to itiveness to actually be something. It's almost like they haven't solved their narcissism puzzle, right? You're not a true narcissist if you haven't really figured out the narcissism puzzle. And a huge aspect of it is that ability to stay focused on it, right? And yeah, if your ego is not structured in that way, where because some people, oh, they want to be something, and then now it doesn't work out now, and now I want to be something, oh, but it's not really authentic. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't align with my spirit or some bullshit like that. It's like something that Scott Adams says. It's like if you're a bank and you're gonna loan somebody money, typically you don't loan it to the person who has passion. If all things being equal, you have two people. Somebody comes in with a solid business plan about laundry marts. Very boring, silly thing. He doesn't even like laundry marts. He's not passionate about it, but he has studied the hell out of it. And he says, look, here is what I project for the Baltimore area in the next 10 years. Here's the experience that I have regarding laundromats, right? And he can become rich off laundromats and then get that capital to do whatever the hell he wants. But some people are looking to be quote unquote happy or sailing on cloud nine as opposed to just starting a laundromat, right?
Yep, I think that's what I was trying to get at, Andre. Like this, when people ask you, okay, let's say you're a programmer. Oh, what should I do if I want to become a programmer? People will tell you, well, don't do it if you don't love it. What the hell does that mean? Right? It's
uh,
like, yeah,
yeah,
what does that
yeah.
mean?
it's kind of
Do it if you want to get the money, and they'll tell you
yeah.
stupid shit like
No,
don't
no.
do it for the money.
For
Exactly
me,
why you should do it.
guys, okay. So for me, the money kind of is like a motivation tool.
Good, good, good. That's a good
The
point. Then that's a good
the
start.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I did some jobs that they were not good experience,
you
but
try any blow.
the money was
What kind of
good. You know,
jobs? Do they
yeah.
blow? Raking seeds? What kind of
No, no,
jobs?
it was like working with like a site, and you actually fix these, water things. I don't know how to explain that.
Ah, so it's wet. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and the money pays, bro. The money motivates. You just
Mhm.
the money. If the money can motivate you, I don't think you do the job. If you're not, you don't have to like the stuff. You do to be motivated. You can be motivated in a different way by the
Yeah,
resources motivate you. You know.
so here's the thing: feelers usually tell you things like, for example, let's say when I'm cooking, right? So what feeler told me, "Oh yeah, you put all the love in the cooking." No, I have a procedure when I'm cooking. I simply it's interesting. People think, right, just because you put care and you treated something with respect, it means you love it. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means you respect your job. You put in the work, you put in the effort, and then you get shit done, and there is success out of it. I think that you know exactly what I mean, right? Like people start putting things like, well, oh, the grandmother cooked that
So
food with love. No,
to do
it's just
some BS, some ENTJ BS stuff here. Yeah, head, heart, and loins, right? Um, and these people focus on either the heart or loins aspect, um, and they start saying things as though head, heart, and loins basically is required for any kind of excellence or ecstatic experience, right, at its highest level. Now your head has got to be in it, your heart has got to be in it, and you got to have your loins. You got to be alive. He's got to have the verve and the zest for life, right? You got to want to freaking screw it or whatever, right? Uh, so these people forget, and head, heart, and loins is in that order for a particular reason. The head, I think, is the most important. Simple kind of platonic kind of view there, but I think it's correct. And then when you tie it with the heart and the loins, as you know, Kaizo, when you really want to give that dish your chef's kiss that day and you're
okay,
fully
okay,
present, that is the best representation of what they're
of
trying to
course.
get at. But typically, they're not precise. They don't have full concepts, and they always start from the wrong end. And all that BS.
Okay, that makes sense, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Tech, I'm gonna email him later today and see where we can. I'm trying to build a multimedia network. Everybody says, Kaiser, ain't you say black people have yes, everybody, that's true. But you see, storyteller, first of all, he's a Yoruba. Second, he's kind of high IQ. And third, he lives in Germany. So all that is enough to suppress that dusty gene that makes us want to be late for everything.
Wait. Ike, let me ask you a question. A guy that does business, like for me, how is it with you with loyalty, in business? How is it? What's your take on it? Like you work with people, like have you ever like how should Africans view loyalty in the business? Like how with dealing with people.
Yeah, but before you answer that question, we got a new panelist. Was good, Uzo. Are you from one man side or to Niger's side? Uzo, can you hear us? You got unmute. Can you
Hello?
hear us? Hey,
Yeah,
what's good?
I'm here. Yeah,
Okay, are
I
you
just
from
came
one
in.
man
I,
side
I
or
just
to
I
Niger
just
side?
came in. I just want to understand what you guys are talking before I put my own input. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but your connection seems weak. Keep talking. I'll see if I can help fix.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I mean, I just want to understand
Mhm.
talking before I put my own input.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Because everything just going up.
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you better now, but I think it's still not perfect. It sounds muffled. Um,
I think if I heard him correctly, though, he was saying that he's listening for now. But
Oh,
definitely,
okay.
if you wanna take care of the microphone or headphone situation. So
Probably
Ari Boy
using
asked about. I'm not Ari, but Andre. Oh, was it Ari? You read the question? Oh no, Andre said it. Sorry, he was talking
yeah.
about loyalty and stuff, right, Andre?
Yeah, he's off, but yeah, yeah.
He's up. So yeah, what do you think about that question, Kaiser? What do you think about what he was
It
saying?
depends on the level that you're bringing someone in. I think that's it, right? Like, if it's a pump and dump, you shouldn't even have to worry about loyalty, right? Make sure that their system's in check, so you get paid if you need that money. If it's long term, then yes, you need to. I think by loyalty, if I'm analyzing it correctly, you need to know the boundary limits of a person, what they're capable of, and the risk associated with that across time. I think
Okay,
that's
fine.
that,
So when yes, correct, and loyalty within the way you've described it, there might be a couple of issues. There might be the issue of literal sticking with me, right? Which I think is less of a problem. Like, oh, I want this person, to stay with me, right? To kind of stay with me and believe in the cause and go the full length of the company. Yeah, right, fine. If that happens, great. But that's a little less concern. I think that typically you're, or the higher concern is what you're addressing, which is trust, right? That can I trust this person? And then you
yeah,
mentioned,
yeah,
knowing so and not to overcomplicate it, right? Because you just talked about, okay, well, then I need to be able to categorize trust in different dimensions and know and tag each individual, right, based on the dimension along which I can trust them, and then see how that propagates through time. How useful there's a particular role. This role needs somebody to have very thorough, clear-headedness, and also I need to be the kind gotta be the kind of person that I have to be able to trust their intentions as well, right? And those roles should not be too many. Those are like your second hand. There's certain kind of roles that require that you both trust their intentions and their capabilities and their sobriety, all three, right? But for the most part, you could just trust enough in people's capability. Doesn't make it easy to find capable people, but capability, you can trust in that. And if you have a system for finding capability, then you don't have to trust their intentions or whether or not they're going to be quote unquote loyal in this kind of staying aspect. So let them go, and hire slowly but fire very quickly is the way to go,
yeah.
because people will rotten up the culture, lower down the expectations, make other people less efficient, right? In other words, bad people, if you keep bad people around, they do more damage than just not working efficiently, right? They actually start
Yep.
to corrupt other people and so on.
And also, I
But
think keeping things separate and not necessarily, okay. Obviously, it depends on size of the pro- project, or I don't know, business size, meaning employees and all that kind of stuff. I think keeping people separate allows you to actually gain better from them, right? It's that whole effect of, you put loads of smart people together. Guess what? They just all go to start, going on the bell curve, given the task that you're giving them. If you separate them and you put like a really smart person with a couple, less smart people, you get more productive. So I think it's like the 80-20 rule, whatever. So what's the rule again? My brain is working faster than I can think. Um, that whole thing whereby, the top 20% of the company are the only ones producing 80% of the value of that specific company or project.
it
If you
is eighty
separate,
twenty or Pareto
right,
or whatever.
yeah,
I don't know.
it's all the same,
Square root.
right? So I think, right, from my own interpretation, if you keep people separate, you maintain, like as you just said, what X said about quality and all that stuff, making sure the culture doesn't get corrupted. You can actually more or less leverage that, and you're more or less having a 50-50 rule, or even skew it in your favor, a 60-40 rule,
You
as
see,
opposed to,
let me. So that is so that's one route. Generally speaking, right? I don't like to feel. I actually think that it's boring for the audience, or maybe, but I might be wrong, right? To be filling in all these shades, all these boxes of like, oh, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, right? Um, But staying within that vein, right? I'm going to go a little bit to my, well, the first person in this company is you if you're doing this as an entrepreneur and any kind of entrepreneurial venture. I'm not talking about, oh, I got to give everything up and I'm going to put my heart and all my love into this job, or this business. Like, screw you, um, you're just going to fail. It might just be a side project. You're starting a series of side projects. You're starting something you're thinking about, whatever. It doesn't have to be this kind of all in business. But once you're doing that thing on your own, you're the person number one. You're the one that's going to need to be worked on, right? So before people get into the point of, oh, loyalty and this and that, as though they were JP Morgan, and they had an empire to dispense with, right? No, it's like, it's you, bro. You're the one that's going to need to be hammered into shape. Yeah, you're the one that's going to need to coalesce around processes and whatnot. And then when you get to a particular point, you're just keeping track of the jobs that you're doing, right? Because the jobs that you're doing are going to become the employees of the business, right? So you start a business, you're the one that you're the top, you're the salesperson. Yeah, yeah, you're the one going door to door with your lawnmower, telling these clients, handing out marketing material that you printed. So you're the marketing department printing out this stuff. You answer the calls when people call back from your flyers. You're the salesperson. You're the accountant. You actually, you know, do handle the QuickBooks, and if you send these people invoices or receipts or whatever it is, you're doing all of that. You drive there. You pull out the lawnmower. You mow the lawn. You collect the money. You cash the check. So all these things from the life cycle of a job, you're like, okay, how does a job start and how does it end? What are the things that I do in between? Where can I bring the most value, right? So anybody can fill in the QuickBooks. I just have to create a system for them. So anybody can print the marketing material. As a matter of fact, most people are better than me. Like, I suck at this marketing stuff. I could outsource that. So the sales part is the part that you're going to be stuck with until you decide to really give it up. But that's one part that you're bringing the most value. You're going to really immediately recognize that. Okay, cool. So I want to do more sales, systematize this QuickBooks stuff, systematize this marketing and outreach stuff. Maybe get somebody to start answering certain other kinds of calls. Definitely get a second lawnmower and hire somebody, somebody to go hire Jose to go with me so that we can kind of do more work. And then more things such as even the sales, you're going to start outsourcing a little bit. And you're going to get to the point where it's like, where you really bring value is in this particular area here, where I can spend only 2 hours, but I can really get a lot of money. And then, so that's kind of like what the one aspect of what the journey looks like. Starting with yourself, keeping track of everything that you're doing, and then you're going to be able to parse it up. And as you parse it up, you know the competencies, you know what is required, right? Because you've done it all in one way, shape, or form. And then so I mean, I don't. So what do you think about that? Is that too much RAM there, or is that just simple enough?
I think you over answered the question. You went into just general business stuff in there at some point,
Yeah.
which yeah. So it's yeah. You've more than answered the question, I guess. Yeah, I think you answered it in the first 20 seconds. Then the rest was I don't know how
Circumlocution.
business works. No, actually, you're moving forward just away from the question. So you can't even call it circumlocution. For group, yeah, for round up. Okay, I don't know what TV what you just stated, but for ground, is it ground? I can't see. Well, let me see.
Ground up, yeah. He said ground up.
Yeah, yeah, from. I think you mean from ground up, right? Yeah, yeah. Generally, I agree. I agree. I think also, but you mentioned kind of something about people not knowing the flow of business, but maybe for feelers, right? They start with people because maybe that's how
Yeah,
they do
because the
stuff.
people is the largest, most magical piece, right?
Yeah,
A computer, you still got to use it. Um, the other kinds of things that you fool yourself with, such as a marketing material, an office, and all these other bull BS, they don't have magic, right? So, but you think the magic will happen is, okay, I acquire this person, okay, I have to have people to do business, and yeah, then the people are going to trust me or they're going to be loyal or whatever, and things are going to happen, right? So I think that people put their most hope on the people aspect. along with all these other BS such as flyers and printers, a table, an address, or whatever, business cards. Those things don't matter at all. And you would go, people. There are many books, many hours of lectures and conferences with MBA types that just try to teach people this basic idea that look, everything starts and ends with the customer, right? In other words, another person that you need to kind of bring along for whatever this journey of yours is. Is it a lawn mowing journey? Then that first person could be your aunt, it could be your local church, it could be whatever. But you gotta go out there and deal with this other mammal and to see whether or not if there's anything going on, because that's the end goal, anyways. Right? It's not like if I go hide in my garage and come up with the perfect whatever and the perfect product, whatever, all of a sudden that's going to affect the way this other mammal is going to react to me. Like, no, the beginning is, do I have something here? If it's an app, a video game app that you're making, send it to your niece, right? If your niece wouldn't even freaking play it, okay, who the hell do you, what kind of, then so you're like, okay, why doesn't she want to play it? Boom, you're already trying to find out product market fit. Product market fit, aka sell shit to a customer, convince somebody to go, pull somebody in, is the most important thing. Business cards and bank accounts and legal structure, are you an LLC or not? All that stuff can come later, okay? Because if Aunt, Veronica is convinced with your lawn mowing skills or your computer repairing skills or whatever, and then word of mouth and XYZ, it doesn't matter. They're going to send you money. They're not going to be like, so are you an LLC? No.
Yep. 100% makes sense. Brian, I mean, you claim that you're a businessman. You claim that you do stuff in real estate. Um, how does that work for you? Who's your employees? Are you your only employee?
I work with a group with realtors as well. We work as a team, actually. In regards, and I work with we put in for the company. Like as far as what real estate goes, you technically speaking, you are owning your own business. Even though as a broker, I don't need now to put my hat on a brokerage. I mean, when you start off as a realtor, you have to put even though you're like an independent contractor, but you still have to be under a broker. It's kind of like a weird type of thing, as far as rules and regulations with California Association. I mean, with the DRE in general, Department of Real Estate. But as a broker,
Basically, Kaizo, real estate is a sales game, right?
it
So,
is sales game, and big
yeah,
time marketing.
yeah, whichever kind of organization you're able to pull in the most sales, whichever kinds of partnerships or whatever, that's kind of like a side issue, really. It's just, well, are you selling? Is anyone buying?
Either you are productive or not. You can still have a real estate license and you're not being productive at all, and you're not doing nothing with it. Some people when they first get into real estate, they think that customers come to them. They don't realize that you have to market yourself and you have to go out there to get business.
So, do you see people who also kind of overplan to this whole point? I just wanted to see if you wanted to, because I went in on this whole. Well, it's all about the customer. Stupid, right? No matter what it is, no matter what you're trying to do, until you get it to somebody, until you put those French fries in somebody's hands and let them say something or eat it, it's all BS. So, do you run into people who maybe they overplan? They're running spreadsheets, looking at the size of the market. Don't you hate those size of the market people? But it don't matter. It don't matter if it's $1 trillion market. If nobody's sending you that money, you motherfucker, it doesn't just come to you by osmosis. Like the size of the market is just gonna glom onto you. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, I try to tell people, like new people, here's the thing: even though the market might be slow or whatnot, there's still going to be somebody's going to have a place to live. I mean, are we going to have 300 million people, or we live in California, Ike? Are we going to have 40 million people or 35 million people out in the street? Somebody need to find a place to live. I mean, what it is you have to find your niche within the real estate game, whether it's going to be commercial real estate, whether it's going to be residential real estate, even with residential real estate, whether it's going to be probates, whether you're going to be like a master of short sales, whether you're going to be a master, rentals. very significant. I mean, even on rentals, you don't get much commissions, but in the future, they could be potential buyers. There's always going to be some people who's going to look in to buy, regardless of the interest rates going to be. It's kind of funny because a lot of people complain about the interest rates being so high, but because what happened during the pandemic, it was like interest rates was like 2 to 3%. Now interest rates is getting close to 8%. But if we look at it from in the past, interest rates, like when I looked at the interest rates back in the 80s, I was in total disbelief. I was like, oh my God, how could people afford it? But then again, the argument could be made that house prices was low.
Yeah, they were kind of low.
Interest rates were like 15%, 18%. To me, that's unbelievable.
So do you think that necessarily, given this viewpoint, that this suggests that the housing prices will have to come down?
It got it, especially in your region, especially where you live at, bro. An average house in San Francisco is over $1 million. If you want to live in a decent area, $1 million. Average house in LA County is like about between 700. No, not even 700 now. Is in the 8s and 9s. Both of our regions need to come down unless you want to move in places like, and a lot of people in LA do not want to move there. But I noticed that I have a couple of listings in Palmdale, and I'm surprised as far as how many responses I'm getting from people. It's really, really surprised. Because the average house in Palmdale, which is pretty much affordable in Southern California, is between the 5 and 6s.
Yeah, and it's a relatively new development, and also with remote work, right? It's people are realizing, why the hell do I want to be in the,
But it's funny though, because a lot of people want to assume, like the listing I have, a lot of investors ask me, can I assume that loan? In other words, they want to take over that loan, even though that my client, I don't even get it on my client because he just, let's just say he didn't pay his bills, okay? And he is definitely way behind his payments. And some people was telling me they will pay all that, but they want to get that interest rate because his interest rate is at 3%. So they want to take over his mortgage.
Which I'm sure that's not an easy. What incentive?
They have to get the approval of a bank, but there's certain investment techniques that could be done. I mean, when investors do what they call something called, you can look this up, they call subject twos. It's legal where the investor could take over the mortgage and take title of the property. However, the property is still, from the lender's point of view, is subject to the promissory agreement they made with the seller.
So it's similar to owner finance, right? Where it's like, I'm going to buy your business, Brian, but I'm not going to go be the one to take the loan from the bank. You're going to take the loan from the bank, but I'm going to pay it. That kind of thing. It's kind of
similar, but it's different. You're just basically, it's kind of like same thing like assuming a loan, but it's the reverse where when you assume the loan, the lender knows and you have to get the lender approval. With a subject to, the lender don't know.
I see.
Yeah, it's kind of like the reverse of that. And usually the investor will have someone, like a tenant or something like that, and they'll charge him obviously extra money, more money, as far as renting out the property or something like
that. So what's the actual scoop regarding actual inventory of housing, right?
It's still, our region of California is still hot, bro. I don't know why we're still so hot, bro. Like I said, I've been getting, whenever I put a listing out, I've been getting, 10 to 15 offers, bro. I don't know why it's still like this. I mean, I guess we're short in inventory, but I've just been getting offers, bro.
Now, yeah, this is quite interesting. I mean, the entire whatever kind of cycle, if you can call it a cycle, or the phase in the cycle that we're in the economy, is pretty weird, right? Where the labor market is hot, certain prices you're expecting to go down are not going down.
Don't they
Interest
want
rates
to?
are rising, but people are kind of broke. Like credit card usage also, right? It's just kind of a weird spot where like, okay, where is it going?
I want it to go really in our market really down. I mean, because I have
Mm-hmm.
tons of buyers. Like I have an Ethiopian buyer, and he only got a loan for $700,000. But he wants to live in LA. He don't want to live in Rancho Cucamonga. You know how far that is from LA or Palmdale, especially with our traffic. Can you imagine? He's like saying, Brian, I said I get really tired. I'll be traveling from, or Buddy, that's my name really, but I'd be traveling from LA to Palmdale. Or Rancho Cucamonga, and that's going to take me like 2 hours in traffic. You know how our freeways go, stop and go, stop and go, stop and go.
Yeah, man, it really sucks having to go to an office, and
Yeah,
there's some people whom, well, I guess not all. So I don't think it's for everybody, and I think that you shouldn't force everybody to do it either, right?
I agree. But I think he's in the medical field though.
Okay, well then, just screw him.
But it's just something, man. And then I have to, my Palmdale person, I have to help him move to Houston. But he's so much in the arrears, and we're hoping that he'll get his net proceeds. I'm hoping he does. God, I hope he does. It's so much.
And what do you think of Houston? Is it worthwhile to leave? So people are leaving LA. Okay, they're going to the Sun Belt or whatever, right? They're going to Florida. There's Arizona. There's generally warmer places, and there's Texas. Obviously, we all know about the Austin stuff. Is Houston a place to go? Houston just seems like a dreary Sacramento or something.
It's hot.
Yeah, like
you're
hot
gonna be. It's like Vegas, bro.
Oh yeah, in terms of and that too. Like, why do I want to go live with all these dusty Nigerians and shit?
No, I mean not just Nigerians. It's just the heat, man. It's hot.
Yeah, that too.
It's humid and sticky and nasty.
Correct.
Mosquitoes everywhere in some parts.
Yeah, so even
Florida had an outbreak of a malaria this summer. You know that, right?
Interesting. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, they had an outbreak of malaria. Local. They didn't come from anywhere else. They said it was local.
So Dallas.
That's why. Go ahead.
I was going to say just Dallas and the Plano area. Generally, that's another kind of generally good spot. A lot of corporate yuppie types are kind of going there.
There's a lot of corporate yuppie types.
Yeah, I appreciate something about like coming from California to.
Americans, I heard.
What'd you say?
A lot of stuck up Black people there. I heard in Dallas.
Yeah, Black people tend to be. They're kind of like Indians in a particular way, where they tend to be stuck up.
Classes.
Yeah, in a way that's unwarranted. Like it's like, come on. It's like, I mean, it's not like it's just kind of strange. But Dallas is relatively good. The Plano area and whatnot. And I think that if you come from California, you're going to appreciate their roads and stuff like that. In other words, you're used to, a nice wide freeway, and then you're going to find, they do it better here, that kind of stuff. You don't really care too much about, it's got to be walkable, right? Like, whatever. I don't really want to walk, right? I'm an LA person or whatever. Even the Bay, it's not, people aren't really walking here unless you're within the city of San Francisco, which is, as we know, is a small city relative. It's like 750,000 people live in the freaking city or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I heard you guys downtown changed a lot. Is it true?
In what way?
I mean, it's like less people walking around.
Well, yeah. It's kind of it's been okay. So we know about the general commercial real estate issue, right, with the office spaces and So with that went a lot of just other stuff. But there's still the place where the homeless people still gather and congregate, right? But generally speaking, there's some center spots right there by the Marriott, and that it's kind of more empty, which I kind of like. Like
Really?
you
You
know,
like
I'm not, and I suffer from certain kinds of overstimulation, right? I don't really find crowds interesting or whatever, right?
I know you don't like New York City then.
Not necessarily, like not for. So the thing is,
Because according to Ty Ano, he said New York City is like Lagos and steroids.
so ultimately, right? It's about what you're doing and whatnot. But even within a city, you can that energy, that vibe, or whatever it is, it's different from the vibe that you get from when you're outside of it or when
Right.
things are more quiet. I don't necessarily like knock one or the other, but I'm well aware of the effects that both of them have on me. When I'm outside of the city, I actually feel like the day is longer. But within the city, yes, it's great when I lived in San Pedro, for example. Yeah. Now that's an actual walkable city where I
Right.
could walk to the barber shop and then walk down the wharf, and there's nice restaurants here and there. Like, now that was cool, you know. But it kind of like when I then moved to Orange County, Brea and certain other parts of Yorba Linda.
hmm
I could breathe, So I'm well aware of the. I like the two. So for example, I do like to. I travel. I stay, downtown Portland. I'm staying downtown Seattle, right?
hmm
Right there, nice little loft. Whole Foods is in the bottom of the building,
Right.
But I don't want to live there. I don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
live
I mean,
for so long.
Portland's a strange city for me. I mean, I'd rather Seattle than Portland now, but
Yeah, and regardless of Seattle or Portland, right? I don't want to live in that kind of arrangement, but I get it. Fly into that kind of stay there for a week and then leave. But I don't want to live in some loft where there's a Whole Foods below, and it's have the micro mobility bikes and scooters and stuff. It's cool. It's nice for a week, but at some point I just want to back away into a place where things are a little bit more quiet.
I hear you. I hear you. You want you. I got what you're saying. Yeah, you don't want it that. I mean, like for example, I love New Orleans, but I don't think I could handle New Orleans every single day.
Yep.
Even though that city is so ghetto. It's so ghetto. It is.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really been there. I've only seen it. I don't really think I want to go, just based
go.
on what I.
No. Just go. I'll say I just go for the experience.
And then I get killed. Fucking get killed by a fake taxi driver. Fucking chloroform. Fucking
Oh shit! I mean, just
body bag. The whole nine. Torture chamber.
Just go. I mean, hold up. Homeboy is from there. Philip Lindsay. He's from New Orleans. Just go for the experience. The food is good.
Oh, so Felipe is from or I don't know if that is Felipe. Well, it does. Yeah, it makes sense. It kind of sounds like.
He said no jobs in New Orleans, but you should go. You should go. You should go. It has a lot of I hate to use this term. I guess retentions from Africa. Some in some respects.
Yeah, I mean those kinds of things I can observe from afar, but I do like to experience. Yeah. There's no reason for me to
go there.
Somewhere that with attention to Africa or whatever. It's like I get it,
but don't go there during Mardi Gras though.
Yeah, of course not. Like, of course not.
Yeah. Because Nigeria was at the Essence Festival this past year, and they had their own little Nigerian day. They did.
What do you think about that?
I don't care. I mean, because I guess Essence Festival is supposed to be all inclusive for Black people.
I'm not sure I like it.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I think it's a little intrusive. It's like,
well,
stay out of ADO's people's shit, okay?
No, it's a good way for, let's say, your business. It's for people who want to who really want to network, or the network opportunity for various different businesses. That's what it is, really.
All right. It's like infiltrating ADOS festivals and shit.
No, I'm just saying it's just a network event, bro. That's all what it is.
Nigeria, there, nice. People are gonna be hating.
No, it was cool. People were cool with it. I mean, they had their Nollywood stuff there, and they Nollywood actors and all that.
That's the thing. The hate with y'all. Okay, you see, here comes the hate.
Yeah, I mean,
The
I bet
hate with y'all always starts as a cool thing. It's not just y'all. Right? There's a. What I mean by that is this.
you know the general African American don't care about that shit. You know that.
Yeah, but the one that
The ones
cares
online
is like,
are the ones
ooh,
who
with the culture and stuff, and then when they look into the culture, they start seeing things they don't like. Then all of a sudden, it's like, oh my god, I didn't know. It's like yeah, stop with the fetishization of shit. But I don't really care either way. I just know that to the degree to which there is hate, it tends to start out from this kind of like, oh, I want to experience the African culture. Such there's some videos that Kaizo here would review in his platform of people going to Africa, for example, and then getting jaded. It's like, yes, I'm also always suspicious at this kind of a celebration of the others.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't think it's generally speaking, people don't really care about it's not like like in England where I think the Caribbeans and Nigerians used to have like wars against each other, not in Nigerians but in West Africans in general.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, definitely. It's only when it gets down to you got to get really close. You got to be like into like inter-family. You marry somebody's daughter type for you to even start noticing. You get what I'm saying? That kind of thing and
Right.
whatever. And that is kind of normal, natural.
What happened in London between the African gangs and the Caribbean gangs, I didn't know it was that deep over there. Between the groups and the knifing each other and all that other stuff. I mean, especially it was one Ghanaian guy. He hated Caribbeans. He didn't want no Caribbeans in Ghana due to his experiences with Caribbeans.
Oh, interesting. So he's bringing his colonized London mentality back to Ghana to talk smack about the Dusty Caribbeans. Speaking of Dusty, here comes the Dusty New Orleans rep. Shout out to Felipe.
Felipe. Hey, what's up, Felipe? Felipe?
He's all here muted.
Sorry, I had a hard time getting off of mute. What's up, Mike? Shrimps and
What's
cheese.
Up? Hey, what's up, man?
Guys? Hey, man, I didn't want to come up here. I'm busy, but you guys started talking about New Orleans. Don't be afraid, bro.
Okay, because I kind of see one of those places where you get stabbed and over nothing.
Damn.
Over a little bit of whatever, the fucking taxi driver kidnaps you, and like, what the fuck?
No, you have a great time, man.
Who hurt you, Mike?
I don't know. I'm just,
I mean, I'll say go do it. I mean, I know you like cool weather. Like you was telling me that. Go do it. I guess go now.
Dude, do you like that callback? That's always the phrase. Who hurt you?
Who hurt you?
Who hurt you, Mike? What girl hurt you?
I was just there a couple of weeks ago. It's fine, bro. And they've made over the years, like I was really impressed this time. They've made a ton of improvement, man. But you do have to use some common sense since you haven't been there before, right? Mm-hmm. So and you don't have any family there. So there are certain things that I would scratch off the list. Right? But I would say you want to go, make sure you stay in the French Quarter, where your hotel is. I would be, if you're going by yourself, I'd be really careful how late you stay out. Like maybe the witching hour for you is 2 a.m. I don't know if you want to try for that 4 o'clock spot. Right? That may be off limits. Now, if you go with, a buddy of yours or a female, then, you guys use good judgment, right? So that's the first thing. And the second thing, Shrimp and Grits is, listen, the live music scene there is off the chain. The food there
Yeah,
is
yeah, the
incredible.
food part for sure. Because I'm thinking of several aspects of that. Because I know, and I want it to be real and authentic, whatever. As a as a chef myself,
Yeah,
and as a West African chef at that, I'm definitely down for those flavors and whatnot. Um,
They even have a food tour where you could
yeah,
learn
they
about the way
do.
they do various different New Orleans cuisines. They do have that.
that's yeah, it sounds like one of those things for other people,
I,
but
I, I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you the $1 million idea right now. Although I've said it, I think when you've been on the show before, which is the fusion. I don't know if you should do it New Orleans, but the fusion uh, Nigerian / Black American cookbook.
mm,
And I'm going to tell you why. If you can get our people, which as shrimp and grits is saying, we're a very diverse, even though we're all considered Black American. Each one of those states were their own colonies. Some of them were private, some of them were sanctioned by the church, etc. And so you've got a different culture in almost every different state, depending on what you're trying. Now there's an overlap that the situation was,
mhm.
controlled by the federal entity, but still, my point being that if you can get Nigerians and Black Americans eating the same food or similar food, then you can go to a grocery store, then you can go to restaurants, and you can get a circular economy going.
Yeah, I've heard you mention that before,
Yeah,
and it's an interesting endeavor. Yeah, getting them. So again, talking about the creation of marketing groups, and
and
so
just food creations. Like I would start small with like a food truck, and I'm only saying that because several of my family members are chefs. Many of them are chefs, others are musicians. And so, there's an opportunity there. It's just that it has to be small. Like you don't want to put a big log on the fire. You want to put a twig, right? And if it
Mhm.
catches, then you can put more twigs and build a fire, right? But you want to start with a few twigs, like a food truck or something, where it's just like one or two. This is definitely a Nigerian dish with an American twist. That's what Roy Choi did out here in LA at Shrimps and Grits. You sound like you're in LA.
Yeah, how you know I'm in LA?
Because I live. So I know where you were talking about.
I mean,
So, yeah.
I'm in San Diego. I live in San Diego, but I have a company I work
Oh,
for.
okay, brother. Oh, I figured you because you were talking about what was
All
it?
different areas.
Rancho Cucamonga and Palmdale
Yes.
and all
Yeah,
that.
I mean, plus, I mean, okay, I get it that you're saying you live in San Diego, but I mean, SoCal is SoCal, right? If you're there, you've probably lived everywhere. I lived in San Bernardino and San Pedro and Orange County.
Damn.
Yeah,
It's
And then he's
everywhere.
an interesting fellow, the most interesting panelist on Kaisorian Empire, right? So
did you
what is
guys
that?
make progress, Felipe? I can when you, Mike, and IC3 assembled again. I had to like
I,
bounce because I was like, oh my god, IC3 is gonna take him down the whole. I just anticipated it. I don't know if you actually went there, but down his whole wall, power versus money, and what is the and it's gonna be 15 hours of parsing some basic logical gates, right? Oh, well, if this, but can you concentrate both on whatever? But was there any progress made
well,
uh,
I
regarding
I take my
solutions, quote
win.
unquote?
I take my win with Mike. If I can get him to agree with me on one thing, then I take that win and I run with it. I'm gone.
Yeah, but you guys were triggering IC3 when you mentioned that money. When you mentioned the money thing, because that's his trigger. He all of a sudden
Yeah.
just starts seeing red and evil and like, oh my god, money is a bad thing. Like, what kind of idol worship is that? Like, come on, man. Like, it's simply a signifier of an inevitable human activity, which is exchange.
Is he one
right?
of those people who goes to London? They debate in the street in the corner or something like that.
Yeah, Mr.
Oh,
IC3, the
in my
lovable.
part.
Yeah, he speaks in the speaker's corner.
Speaker's corner. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. No, man, he's a good brother, and I like Mike because he keeps it simple. It's not going to be long-winded. Let me take you through all of the pieces of literature type of discussion. He wants to talk about money or power, and man, I'm not hating on the brother. I love him.
Oh,
And
no, yeah, I love him too. And what I'm saying is not from a place of no.
oh no, we're
I
joking
know
around.
him. Yeah, I know him exactly well, and that particular tool, which is the logic, he's just like a logic machine guy. Yeah, I don't mind it. It's something I have a particular
Yeah.
pet peeve with and an impatience with, right? Whatever, but
No,
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
Regarding Mike, right? And his basic kind of, well, let's just get the money and do what we got to do, right? That's one end of things. And then you have IC3, generally speaking, trying to create a model, right? And the problem is it's an abstract model whereby it's kind of filled with words and relationships that are not really tested or true, right? Talking abstractly about power is, whether it's soft or hard power or looking at it through a historical lens, it's fraught with all kinds of error, right? To look at things purely through logic and try to build a model. But where I see the nexus point here is like, imagine King David, okay? If IC3 is concerned with power, right? Or you bridge IC3 is concerned with power and then Mike's philosophy. It's King David, right? You think King David was sitting there thinking about all the ways in which, whether it's the Philistines or whomever, have written bad things about his people, and whether or not it's gonna trying to figure out the secret codex, or did they just go there and kill and pillage and take every man, woman, and child and whatever Jehovah said to do that weekend, right? I mean, what the hell? It's like you're trying to benefit from the luxuries of power, which is this kind of soft power. I would say is the benefit of it's a luxury of hard power. So to the victor goes the spoils. The victor writes the history and blah blah. But you got to be the victor first. Okay, you can't do the spiritual warfare, which involves the writing of the history and whatnot, without having any freaking victory that is of or any kind of thing that you have done. Anyways, now I'm getting myself all riled up and foaming at the mouth. So I'll shut up.
I try to avoid those conversations. You notice I don't get on the platform when those groups come on. I'm like, let me just.
Those are my kinds of conversations. I just
IC3.
No, what I mean is where he leads it to. He leads it to solutions, right? And then, but because of his non-practicality, he never knows how to get it to push the conversation forward. So I just have impatience when the conversation starts starting over again from the beginning of where we must have gotten past, right? So when I came in last time, we were like, okay, we got to the position where, yes, we all agreed that basically what needs to be done is regional cooperation, right? Little conspiracies to circumvent the dollar, basically trying to break the dollar hegemony and develop value added, blah, 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 right? And then how is that done? Anything that kind of goes outside of that, or we start acting like, though, that's not the point. Every further conversation should start from that point, right? So whenever I see, we're now talking about some BS about, the fucking curse of Ham again. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, those are conversations.
It was funny. It was funny. He read a book today, and listen, like you say, he has his lens how he likes to come to the issue. But I agree with your analysis there that at this point we're just trying to micro build and to keep people positive. That the Mzungu are not Thanos, and that just to be practical about it, because you've got, and this is what concerned me about some of the things that you were saying, is that there's a lot of diversity among Black Americans, but I think one of the things that's really been counterproductive is this lexicon of attacking African people from other places outside the United States. It's like I understand why there are issues, right? But at the core of it, we never want to be in a place where we can't come together and build like what you were describing, right? So I never want you to be in a place where I can't go to New Orleans because, you know, I'm gonna get jabbed, or you know what I mean? Like it's not that bad, but you do have to use some common sense, just the same as if I'm going to Lagos or anywhere else in Africa, that I have to use common sense, right? I can't just
So I
yeah.
I stayed in Fontana for a while at the
But did you
border of
stay, did you
Rialto.
stay in the hood?
I stayed in the hood in Fontana, right in the border of Rialto. I was going to Kefi Community College in Rancho Cucamonga, as a matter of fact. But
Wow.
and given my personality, which is basically I'm a risk taker at heart, and not just risk taker. I do like to experience things. I don't get really lost in experiences and whatnot, but I'm not afraid of experiencing shit. Okay, and and I think shout out to Jesus. Sabbath was made for the man and not man for the Sabbath. In other words, I don't believe in the rules per se, right? Typical Nigerian shit. So, point being, while in Fontana, yes, I did a lot of hood stuff, and by that, hung out with the people, did the kinds of things, ABC, the whole nine,
So
whatever.
you a crip?
I mean, I actually, because of certain connections, I was hanging out with Southsiders, right? Mexicans and they were from kind of LA, blah blah blah.
Hold on. You hung out with the Frolos?
Yeah, it was basically because of a particular friendship and some music things that we were doing, and then so I was living in Fontana, but I had Cholo connections, and they were mainly in LA, and they would come over to blah blah that kind of stuff, and so I kind of understand, and I've been in certain dicey situations because of that, right? As you would expect. So I know I'm not one of these people that doesn't understand or doesn't appreciate the nuances of different situations. So just be like, oh, well, I don't want to go there because it's like I get it. I get it. I've been plus coming from Nigeria too, right? So I get that 100%. Now, to something you were alluding to, or perhaps the undertone of what you were talking about was about this kind of coming together, which I always find skeptical. But the way I find it skeptical is like one of those kind of like, okay, why talk about this particular toll road on our way to the destination? This coming together thing, I also find to be the spoils of victory. I don't think it's what is actually, but what I mean by that, I mean, not a majority of people will need to, let's say from a purely economic perspective, need to go into the markets of Africa, the market of the third world to get exponential increase, because that's where you would get exponential increase in, as opposed to everywhere else, which has been where the game has been sewn up. So if you're an African American or any other particular group that is looking for their opportunity to get exponential increase, Africa is one of the last frontiers right now, and as evidenced by the fact that hey, China's looking there, Russia's looking there. So it's like hey, and so if only the required critical mass, that magical term, right? Nobody quite know how many. Right? Yeah, you just need a critical mass. I'm sure. I always smile when people kind of cop out with the critical mass one, but I'm going to use it. The critical mass of people that will, and it's not by any means the majority of African Americans that will be like, okay, cool, we want to deploy capital, we want to benefit, we want to do this, that, and the other. And their incentives are not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a kumbaya incentive, right? It's a natural and it'll go that way. Kumbaya will happen, I think, as a result of that. So, but that is one. Let's talk about that 5%. But there has to be like another 20% whom are not the first steppers, but they might be your shareholders. Let's say when you create your Africa Inc. whatever, the ADOS people whom a little bit of the ADOS bourgeoisie that wants to get rich by buying shares in your Africa Inc. such and such, and you have good marketing and such, and then the coming together happens. I don't find it to be a necessary part. Basically, what I'm saying is human beings are more like a little chemistry lab when it comes to this idea of fusing them together than something that you have to that comes from the inside. no, people from their own are not going to decide to kumbaya, not going to decide to tribe up. You got to like manipulate them to do it.
Oh, I agree with that, and there was some conversation that you came in, uh, and you said that it would naturally happen by good business practice, which was why I came up for this topic, because I'm always um, up for that conversation. I agree. The thing that concerns me is this. Um, that some of the things that Shrimp and Grits was talking about black business practice, particularly, I'm just going to categorize it on, I want the homie hooked up. That culture has to die, and it's really problematic, particularly for black professional people. But larger than that is this. And I hate to do the comparative, but I have to, because that's only my work experience. Even though many of the countries that are now developing in Asia were, say, when I was doing that kind of work 20 years ago, were far from what they are now. There were policies in place to help them grow. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, sorry. So what concerns me is, all right, let me put it this way. I want to express it this way, that if you're trying to grow hydro plants, you need lighting and you need the proper water because you're trying to grow a hydro plant. It's not the traditional plant, okay? You don't have the same kind of sunlight and irrigation, okay? And what concerns me, what I'm seeing, I have various Nigerian friends of mine that send me information and so on and so forth, is that even to do a hydro, I'm seeing stuff like, for example, and I'm just going to give this as one example, where Nigeria is still borrowing tons of money from the IMF. I don't understand it. I don't understand. Well, I do understand it, but it's a very cynical play from the top there. But that's really problematic, because even if you're trying to talk about a small build or a small investment, if the using the hydro analogy, if the water usage and lighting is poor, you're not going to produce what you should produce in terms of the size of the plant. And there are things like that where in Asia, the problem wasn't the lighting and the water, it was the plants themselves being put there. Do you understand? So this is what's worrying me about the business talk, is that we have all three. We have an issue with the lighting, we have an issue with the water, and we also have an issue with the plants being put there. And whenever I try to bring this stuff up, then it gets lost in like, well, like what some people were saying of just plant it and it'll grow. And it's like, no, man, like free trade zones are a real thing. Tax incentives are a real thing. Government policy where, say, the government of Nigeria takes 51% of a joint venture and then opens that up because they pool it together into a mutual fund where other people can invest in it. These kinds of things. Building a bond market, that's a real thing. And this is what's concerning me, is that it seems like it's very difficult to get the basic things in place where all we need is just to put the plant there. I know I spoke about a lot, so I'm going to throw that to the panel.
Yeah, well, one of the threads there is the government ineptitude, to use that word, which is what it is, and perhaps is not as important in the sense that it's there I think there's a huge generational aspect. I think we
Yeah,
see that.
the thing is, it's people who benefit from not having electric power and all that. I mean, I could imagine, you probably have a bunch of generator lobbyist people who's like saying, like,
Yeah.
we don't want this to happen because we'll lose money.
Yep, they're 100% there. There are various cartels of sorts like this that some of them are better than others. Better in the sense that some at least allow production to happen. Others are completely counterproductive, right? And just want to steal the money offhand and not even have the project see the light of day. Now, I think there's a generational aspect. I think the generational aspect we also see in the United States in the sense of shout out to Mitch McConnell, shout out to Joe Biden. I mean, Trump can fool you in terms of his age or whatnot, but he's also up there too. But there has been any time like this when we're voting in older and older people. See, the boomers, and I have nothing against them, but they're the boomers, right? And I'm strictly speaking demographically now, um, and that particular generation, what it's doing, and the particular kinds of interests and incentives that it has, in order to sail into its retirement nicely with all its wealth. I think that two things will break that up: the generation wants when they leave, and then technology also. Technology will necessarily have to be a critical part of reducing the corruption in Africa, right? Sin, but we just have to take a skip. I mean, to say blockchain is the easiest way, right? But I think that that whole space of blockchain and what it will become will be a nice little skip that'll allow Africa to skip the uncanny valley of how to sort out itself, how to sort out regulation and stuff like that. So you need something that's decentralized and self-regulating, right? And that's what the blockchain is. And if we can start to use it to solve problems within the actual government, the workings of the government, then we'll see progress in that regard. When it comes to the generational aspect, I'm looking more at the private sector for sure, and seeing that people will see enough of the people, enough of the 5%, whether they're uh, born in Nigeria, born and then left Nigeria, or maybe they're some of the bandits coming from the ADOS community. Uh, that they'll see enough of, hey, this is where the upside is, right? The game is sewn up everywhere else. What am I going to do the S&P and get my 8%? That's not going to give me anything. I'm broke compared to these boomers, right? Where am I going to get my upside? Where am I going to get my convexity? Where am I going to get my exponential increase? Where is the next frontier? It's Africa. What needs to be done? So you mentioned all these problems, right? And as obviously the obvious kind of silly thing to say is these are opportunities, but it is also true. It's it is true that those are opportunities, right? A billion here, a billion there. There's so many billions to be made because there's so many people, and by touching the lives of people with this basic lower end of Maslow's hierarchy of needs problems, right? You're talking about basic food, clothing, shelter type stuff. So there's just billions to be made in terms of lifting that tide up, and I think that there's a path forward. I think that the government, the particular crew right now, know that think they should be ignored a little bit. I'm not saying that you should do like shout out to the one man went to Mo, Kaizo's partner these days. But over on this channel, you have people trying to hold the leg of the Nigerian government to the fire, even though they do get bogged down 90% of the time in just party politicking, which in Nigeria looks like tribal politicking. But there is that aspect of focusing on the government and such. But I think that the government is not gonna. The government is not going to be where the solution comes from. The solution to the government's problems, I think, are actually going to have to come from outside, and there'll be a technological solution as well. So there's just a couple of points there, touching on the things that you put down on the table,
You need
sir.
those Brazilians back. I know the Brazilians help facilitate the development bloggers. You need those Brazilians back.
Yeah. So speaking of Brazilians, speaking of any outsider, including Dwight, man. I'm 100% with Kaiser when he talks about all this kind of and Kaiser likes to be provocative when we're better off in colonialism and this and that. And people get all triggered by it as though it really, like, does it really matter? Like, what is this silly argument you're trying to make here? Even if Kaiser was wrong, what does it matter? Okay, so Kaiser is wrong. We're not better off during colonialism. So now what? Where's the electricity? Like, we also need to get back to that point of the conversation again. I said, we need to always get back to. But an important story about what happened after colonization, let's just say, from a simplistic point of view, using Nigeria as an example, is you have people whom were handed power, right? Their fathers were colonized, and then the children were trained in England, right? Children of certain selected types of peoples and elites, farmers, whatever. It happens over and over again. Pol Pot is another example of this type. But he just went to France rather than go to England. And these people get trained, but they actually are not. So they might be brilliant people, and all that kind of stuff. And Nigerians like to talk about that. Oh, the brilliance of those people. But these are not the people who would not have naturally come up. They did not play the tournament, right? They were handed over the keys. It's like you, Brian and Felipe, you guys build an empire. You guys are the Genghis Khan or whatever, and then you just hand over the keys to these, brilliant children, right? That's not going to work, right? Sure, these people are brilliant, but they should have gone in their natural habitat and done something, and let the cream rise to the top, right? So these boomers are given the keys, and they really had no legitimacy. Not just and Since I always like to look at things from a materialistic point of view, vis-a-vis action, right? When you're talking about action, then materialism is great because, after all, what are you going to act upon? So I think that the people would have given them legitimacy if, let's say, like the General Ojukwu or whatever, these Nigerian leaders, these people who went to these schools and studied abroad and then were given the keys, if they actually did build something in Nigeria, like a dam or this or that, or he's the Elon Musk of this, or he's the Jeff Bezos of that, right? Then we will have seen whom was the real Elon Musk or the real Jeff Bezos, because we know a lot of brilliant kids are just, losers right now, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have that necessary quality. So, um, and then that legitimacy would have then pushed things forward in a particular regard. But I think, now, having said that in this other generation coming up, if they embrace technology, to agree to reach them, embrace technology and embrace capital sources coming from other parts of the world, blah, 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 then we have a chance to do the actual tournament, the actual real game. Let's see who's going to emerge in the agribusiness space, who's going to emerge in these other spaces and such. And then real legitimacy can occur for the first time in that test case country, Nigeria.
Oh, I have thrown this out before, and I understand exactly what you're saying, Ike, and I agree with you. I want you to entertain this idea, at least for Nigeria. And I'm not, because country to country, it becomes more difficult to come up with models. And as you know, I favor the regional economy development model as opposed to the individual nation states. But that being said, I want you to consider Nigeria using the chaebol model that South Korea did, which is, and this is just for expediency, after the war, being the Korean War, Korea decided, listen, we need everything and we need it fast. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the companies that are doing a good job presently, where people, even if it's on a small scale, but people are pleased with the product or the service. And we as a government are going to get behind those families and their companies and help them scale. And that those individual companies were called chaebols, right? So what wound up happening is that you have a series of companies in South Korea that are um, family owned or closely held, that are supported by the government. Now there's obviously competition, but that they have a kind of impunity because they're basically backed by the government, right? So you hear all these stories. You can look at it on TikTok or YouTube or whatever about the families behind the tables. But what it does do, and this is to your point, because I'm sure you're wondering, what does that have to do with what I was talking about? And the answer is yes, you are going to have some idiot sons and idiot daughters within those companies. But you will also have systems that are already effective and producing good products to scale. So even though the son may be an idiot, the system, depending on what it is, may trump their idiocy. And it's a quick way for a country to scale, as opposed to, this is what I'm bringing it up, to try to do the 50-year build of, competition and basically government playing the referee and kind of standing out the way. If you look at the United States, that model actually did not work out that well, because there's a problem with our Constitution, that it tends to lean towards monopoly. And you've seen at different points in American history where the government has had to come in and reset the table completely, right? Because you had, if you think back to the 19th century and the robber baron period, that was basically a resetting of the table to say, look, now that these trust families, many of which their brands are still alive today, that they're too powerful, they're too big of a monopoly, and we're losing competition. And so this is an issue, I guess, I wanted to raise to you guys to see what you thought about it. In terms, and I'm specifically looking at Nigeria, like it would be a quick way to scale. It'd be a quick way to now start building a bond market so that Nigeria can self-fund. But I'll leave it to you guys to see what you think.
Now that's interesting for Nigeria to have a bond market. But then again, could I trust the Nigerian stock market?
Yep, the good old institutions question, right? Institutions, in order to gain trust, typically need time. But what Felipe speaks to is urgency, using this example of we need everything and we need it now. So we don't have time for the 50-year rain dance or whatever. So what is to be done? So that takes us to large scale coordinated efforts, which coincidentally are rare in the world these days. I use the example of the Manhattan Project as such, as one of the, or Apollo, for example, where the government actually got its act together, said we're going to make a nuclear bomb, and they made it. Can you imagine? These days, it costs more to build the net, and takes longer to build the net under the freaking Bay Bridge than it took to build the bridge in the first place. And I'm sure you guys know of all these examples, right? Not only it cost, inefficiencies, all kinds of weird stuff, but I'm calling your attention to the fact that in the world lately, large scale coordination is not going on, and it is not talked favorably about. So you hear things that try to, in a sense, let's say the Malcolm Gladwellization of getting things done, where everything now becomes this kind of random, oh, you were lucky here, and oh, this thing over there, and blah, 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 right? Oh, we never quite know. It's just you just follow the 60-40 portfolio, and then magic happens. There's a certain kind of let's just put things on autopilot and Yeah, nothing actually ever works. We can't really. All human beings, we're just a collection of molecules, anyways. Well, whatever. We're just a drive driven by our instincts. There's a general, both philosophically and in terms of empirically, what we're actually doing and what we think is possible, and how we explain any achievement. There's a withdrawal from this large scale coordinated effort thing. So it'll be interesting to see if, okay, out there, and perhaps desperation, as in the case, for example, of the struggle with the Soviet Union, which led to both Apollo and uh, Manhattan, is the kind of thing that leads people to do that. But then you have to have the cultural IQ, right? You got to be, you know, are these dusty Africans ready to pull a Manhattan Project? Um, that kind of a quote unquote conspiracy to take the fast track to things.
Let's be
I'm
let's be
not.
let's be honest. Most people everywhere in the world are dusty. You have a select few who are brilliant. That's why. How many Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos? I won't call Jeff Bezos a genius. None of those geniuses are genius. We have in the United States. Most people in the United States are workers.
This is true.
And stuff like that. I mean, in other words, it's always a handful of people.
Correct.
Change the whole trajectory of any society.
And that's why I said the cultural IQ or the IQ culture, because basically by that I mean you've had enough time that you have a system that selects the excellence, venerates excellence, strives towards excellence, and uses excellence to propel all the regular normie dusties along, right? That's the way it only ever happens. And coincidentally, we are actually talking about how to do that. We're saying, okay, and I said, okay, the typical long process of creating a system that then grants legitimacy to excellence is that kind of tournament. But if you don't have it, you have to, like, from the ground up, create, right? Create within a particular cohort this system of excellence. So I don't. I tend to believe that anything's possible. It doesn't matter. It's not. There's no point in, if you with the right types of circumstances and a whole lot of luck just being the chaos of the universe, right? Stuff happening. That of course it can be done, right? I wonder what you think, Felipe or Chitlins, about that kind of loss of belief of that we can actually achieve anything if we coordinated. We don't do it anymore. We see how more trying to do anything coordinated it's a cluster truck, right? Just expensive, all kinds of crap going on, and also within the language, the way we describe greatness is always not as a coordinated thing. It's always some luck or some random shit that quote unquote Malcolm Gladwell style explanations.
I mean, I believe that Nigerians are brilliant. Man, if I had the money like Elon Musk, I would try to attract all the different groups of people within the African continent or within the diaspora. Even though I don't know much about, I just knew a little bit about rocketry technology and stuff like that. Have a homegrown system within the African continent in doing it. I mean, we got the engineers out there. We got the brain power. It's just someone with a dream and a drive to make it kind of happen. I mean, before Elon, right? The United States, was depending on the Russians after the space shuttle had been retired for the Russians. I mean, imagine, and then they had the contract between Boeing and SpaceX. And we know who became the winner of that. Can you imagine if we depended on Boeing? We were depending on the Russians still. So it'll be interesting. I'm surprised people like that guy he's from northern Nigeria, billionaire. People always rant and rave about him.
Aliko Dangote.
Yeah. Just because you guys, I mean, I met a few like Nigerian engineers who are really into the sciences and stuff like that, and it's amazing that your elite. Don't try to, like encourage that. Encouraging something homegrown instead of depending on, like China or India or even, your space program is, or even Europe to send up their satellites.
What I was going to say, and I shrimps and grits, or what is it? Shrimp and cheese grits. That is, I think part of the issue is, for some reason, actually, it's not actually mysterious. Both the diaspora in the Americas and the continental Africans overly focus on Europe and under focus on themselves and Asia. And what I mean by that is this, that as far as I can see presently, the situation that we have right now with the European economies, and I'm now speaking about Germany, France, and the UK, all are in some form of reduction, contraction, or collapse. And I think it's really crazy that both the diaspora and it seems the continental Africans compare themselves to the European models that have already proven are not going to be continued, at least in the way that they were as empires before. Sure, they will be economic regional powers and things like that, but not in the way that they were before. To your point, Ike, of like, during the colonial period or during the 20th century and late 19th century, the United States did big things and the Europeans as colonial powers did big things. I think a big part of that is that, number one, the aspiration to pool money into big infrastructure products like Kwame Nkrumah did and countless others did has changed. And I think on the African continent, there is an aspiration for it, but there's a lack of understanding how you pool that type of capital without going to the IMF and World Bank, right? So this is where I keep coming back to just having basic zoning, having basic tax collection, and bond markets. The African continent, if it had inter-trade, meaning just inter-investment in one another's economies, could grow, I would say 50%, maybe 100%, just from that, just from having a semi-reliable investment in one another's countries. If you add inter-trade to it, I think it could grow by 150% because the resources that are there are all that the countries that are there need. The issue is you need technology and you also need capital investment. But if you could build your own market from what you have of paying for things, then you don't need to look for outside investment in the same way. You could look for them as partners, but not as the driving force behind a project. Because look, the idea, and Ike, I know we've been on panels together where this has been discussed. The idea that the Europeans are going to invest in the African continent in the way that they invested in the Asian continent is just completely unrealistic. They are not going to give any African country access to the dollar market the way that they gave it to China and Japan. That's not going to happen. So,
but anyway, fellas, I have to get ready to get going to this real estate meeting. I'm kind of hosting it. Good conversation.
No worries, brother.
I'll talk to you guys.
Right. All right, thanks for coming on, brother. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Take care, guys.
See ya. Yeah, and I'm not going to go long. I'm just saying that my biggest thought on this is Africans, whether you're talking about on the continent or in the diaspora, love seeing success. And if we had just a few examples of success, I think that the marketplace would grow. You know, but that I'm not gonna do a narration myself. So Kaizo, I think this is the end of this particular chapter. We'll have to pick it up at a different point.